Who wants a pot of coffee? I just made coffee. You want a cup of coffee? Sure, there you go. Who wants coffee? Anybody else want coffee? Who wants coffee?
And now it's time for the man with the caffeine, the new tropics for the brain. It's Coffee with Mike. Hang in, hang tight, grab your cup, and let's get this thing started.
Welcome back to Java Chat, everybody. You got Coffee with Mike here, and I have the distinct pleasure of interviewing another brilliant mind. Not like I don't bring them all on here. I intend to. And this one in particular caught my attention. His name is Ari Gunzberg. I said that correct, right?
Yes, you did.
Okay. Ari's got a little cool thing called the Little Book of Greatness. By the way, I have to go get that book now. I've only had a short time to study who you are, and already your story just kind of floors me. Dude, you figure out the five elements to greatness. Holy shit. If people around the world understood what that meant, I don't think we'd be having the troubles we're having in the world right now.
I think that's a true statement. The 5 keys, they're short, simple, sweet, but they're designed to last a lifetime.
People make things so damn complicated, though. I mean, what the hell? We're humans, right? I had a conversation once with somebody saying, human tendencies, and she immediately goes, "Yeah, what are human tendencies?" I said, complicating fucking everything,
or being dumb.
Or
sorry.
No. But that's a very true statement.
So I just want to clarify. Individuals are very smart. People, as a rule, in total, right? When you take big groups, oh my gosh, they're so dumb.
So are we gonna you want to run the rest of that script from MIB, or how do you want to do that?
Oh man, is that from MIB?
Tommy Lee Jones called it right down the line on that script. That was so funny. I was looking at that going, oh my gosh, they're bringing in life coaching. But it's such a great movie. I would watch it again anyway. Okay, cool.
Yeah, so they did really well.
I think they did amazing. Give us a little bit of background, brother, about where you're from.
The glory days of Will Smith.
The glory days of your, how you destroyed the evil dragon and who you are now.
All right. So to start with, I don't think there's any such thing as destroying the evil dragon. Right.
Oh, you're gonna kill me, dude. All right, fine. It's all right. I pet my dragon. He likes me.
I'm saying, we have these things that we went through, and we can't get rid of them. So if we try to get rid of them, we're barking up the wrong tree. It's never going to work. It's coming to terms with them. It's accepting them. It's addressing them. But it's killing it. And it happens to be I like dragons, so I don't want to get rid of mine.
Honestly, I haven't gotten rid of mine either. He's a cute little puppy these days. And
I actually found, I got a new car like 3-4 years ago, whatever, not new, but I got new for me. And I was like, I really want to put something like by the mirror and stuff. So I went and I found like some artist in China or something who took like little bits of, what do you call them? The geodes, right? Like the really cool rocks. So they slice them into like little chunks, they polish it, and then they paint like a dragon on it.
Oh, that's so cool.
And so I got it and I hung it from my mirror. It's like really cool. People are like, oh, what's this? I'm like, that's my dragon.
It's my Mushu.
I would have found like a flying like stuffed dragon or something. I couldn't find them. It was really hard. Like, so is the whatever. But
it just kind of throws me that there's not a lot of that around. And those are the symbols, at least in Chinese, those are supposed to be the symbols of wisdom.
Yeah.
Anyway,
maybe it's because they do tame their dragon. But so I mean,
there's so many wrong ways we can go with that. Anyway,
I was about to go down a rabbit hole with that, but I'm gonna put that one.
I got your tail. I got your tail. Come on, we're out of that one. We're not running down that hole today.
So taming your dragon. I mean, I don't even remember what the question was, but like, so getting a hold of your dragon it's all about coming to terms, I guess, with what it is, and it'll happen in stages throughout your life. So don't think like, okay, I'm going to crank through this in 2 weeks, so we're going to be done. I'm still dealing with stuff that I dealt with that initially happened to me 25 years ago. Am I dealing with it all the time? Of course not. Am I, is my entire life ruined because of it? No, but I mean, I had a revelation about those events, only a year or two ago, when I was doing a lot of hiking, and I was like, oh wait, why haven't I been hiking? Like, maybe it's because I had a traumatic experience happen to me when I was hiking, and so I've kind of been hiding from this particular favorite pastime of mine for a long time.
All right, there's the rabbit hole. What happened?
Okay, so when I was 10 years old, we went on a field trip with our teacher.
Okay.
So this is back in the 90s. So
Okay.
there's no, people weren't worried like, oh, send like 18 chaperones with 5 kids.
Sure.
And so like it was just our teacher and us, and we all
It
jumped
was
in
a
the van.
field trip.
Yeah, it was a field trip. We
Yeah.
took a van. We went to like a nice big field.
That's
We were playing
cool.
baseball. I don't remember if we had a barbecue or if we were gonna have a barbecue after the hike. But it's like, let's
Mhm.
go hiking, because he loved to go hiking. He loved nature. He loved like God. He wanted to like show it to us. And so we're hiking
Sounds like
through
a good
the
dude.
woods. Huh?
Sounds like a good dude.
Yeah, he was. He had a bunch of kids. I'm saying he was a great dad to all of them.
That's awesome.
Just to give you like one quick story about like, the type of person that he was. So
Mhm.
before he ended up teaching our 4th grade class, he was teaching the 8th grade class.
Mhm.
And in our circles, 8th grade. So for a lot of people, they finish 8th grade, they go to the high school that
Yeah.
assigns them, and that's it.
Yep.
In our circles, people basically are going to whichever high school makes the most sense for them and that they'll do the best in. And a lot of times that means boarding school.
Yeah.
So he was like one of the people who knew all of the available high schools and would recommend, okay, this is the best school for how your temperament is, how
That's
your
cool.
learning is, how your this is. And he would always make these recommendations. So people would call him up and say, where should I send my son? And he'd be like,
Wow.
right. I mean, right out of the blue, right? They didn't
Wow.
know.
Yeah.
He'd be like, well, I don't know your kids, so I can't make a recommendation. And they'd be like, oh, okay. And like ready to hang up the phone. He's like, but I'll tell you what, why don't we like, we'll get together for a couple weeks. We'll study together 3, 4, 5 times. I'll get to know your kid a little bit, and then I can make a recommendation.
Wow. He would
But
do
like,
that?
and right. I'm saying like just like giving and giving and giving and just on and on.
This guy sounds like a little close to the definition of perfect.
I wouldn't, we're human, so by definition, we're not perfect.
Well,
But,
no, we never are. But
certainly
we all
a
know
great man.
we know the backgrounds of how the near perfects are usually called away. So, I mean,
He was only 50 when he went, so
yeah, very young, but he figured something out correctly. I mean, obviously. I mean,
yeah.
for anybody to be that giving, I mean, I don't know a lot of people like that. That sounds like just a really
And
cool
right,
dude.
remember that's like one story. I'm saying like I have a
I'm
book.
sure there's a bunch.
I have a book
I'm
like
sure.
this thick that was written like 30 days after he passed away for an event. I think it was this one it was, and it's just filled with stories like that.
Sweet.
So
So you guys are out with him.
We're out with him in the middle of the woods,
Okay.
and like we're so he, again 90s people are much less strict and much less
Yeah.
flipping out about stuff. And he's
Yeah.
like, so we were like spreading out on the trail, and a bunch of us were like up ahead playing the stream.
Okay.
And so some kids finally like they emerged from the woods like back behind us 100, 200 feet, whatever, and they're like, guys, you guys gotta come, Rebby's hurt. That's what we called him, Rebby, like it means like my teacher.
Yeah.
And we're like, what are you talking about? No, he's hurt. Okay, you're joking. We just ignored them, went back to the water because we're 10 years old. Like,
Right.
There's no way. Like, what are you talking about?
Right.
After it took a little bit, but we figured out like something's really going on over here. And so we went back with them, and like immediately I could like look around and see like there's something wrong here. Like he was laid out on the leaves and stuff, not responding to anybody, including the kid who was like yelling at him to get up. And so I mean there's nobody out there, it's just us.
Yeah.
Like, what the hell do you do?
Right.
But that's so we 2 different groups ended up going for help. And so we ended up we found our way out of the forest because of a guy who was playing the bagpipe on the bagpipes
That
on
helps.
the edge of the forest. Yeah, I mean totally random, like wearing,
right.
Playing the bagpipes, wearing a kilt, like why are you here? But I don't really.
This isn't Scotland. What are you doing?
I'm practicing like I'm on the Highlands of Scotland. No, you're not, dude. You're in Baltimore in a park. But
Laddie, this is Baltimore. This isn't Scotland.
Right. Oh yeah, I'm doing the wrong accent. Yeah, good point.
But freaking great. Get your ass in here. We need your help. Damn.
But look, whatever the reason he was there, maybe it was literally just to be able to bring us out of there. Yeah. But either way, we found our way out of the woods. We told some guys. They came back with us. One started doing CPR, which I learned much later that when you have this certification that this guy had, that I now have, the wilderness wilderness first responder, the woofer.
Yep.
If you start giving CPR to somebody, you are locked in for 30 minutes unless they respond.
At least.
Right. Well, 30 minutes until you are so exhausted that you cannot move.
Yeah. And
he started immediately doing CPR, and so he must have had a hell of a night that night, because there was no response. You know, I can already tell you that. But much later, I found out. You know, much later that day, like how the whole situation was dealt with. You know, they took us home, and like my dad ended up calling into the school and finding out what happened. And like it was just like it was like a surreal moment that's like stuck in my memory forever at this point. You know, like my dad's like on the phone with them, like asking like, you know, what's going on, what happened? My son came home early, what's happened? And like his whole face just like dropped and fell, and he like, you know, oh, okay, okay, and he like hangs up the phone, like looks up at me, he's like, he's gone, and it was just like, you know, just like slammed into me, and you know, and then like it was just like a whirlwind of events after that, you know, like a funeral, and then like the school like did like a little bit of an effort at giving us counseling, I guess you could say, but it was like kind of like group counseling a little bit, and whatever, I don't know, it was interesting.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, you're talking about. So I live near a
Indy 500, right?
That was a plane. I live near an executive airport. That was a plane, and it's like he's either burning it in or he's burning it out. One of the two. Damn, that was interesting.
My mother-in-law's in Far Rockaway, right underneath JFK. So, you know,
you know all about it.
Oh yeah, you go up there and like, you know, you're in the middle of talking to somebody who's from there, and like a giant 747's like burning through overhead. You don't hear a word he's saying, but he's from there, so he's just like powering through. And you're like, I can't hear you.
I've actually had it there. I think there's one or two where I've literally had to go, and the guest's like, everything okay? I'm like, yeah, I can't hear you, dude. I got either a charger running down with no exhaust on, or one of that what just happened. It's anyway. Yeah. Back to what we were talking about. So you got a bunch of 10-year-olds and 11-year-olds potentially
17
that went through this whole thing together. Absolutely helpless, obviously, because none of you knew what to do. It's the 90s, like you said.
Keep in mind, by the way, even if you have kids nowadays that knew what to do, let's just say you have a kid.
Oh, still, it's traumatic. Are you kidding me?
Oh, no, I'm not. Yeah, I'm not even getting into the traumatic thing. I'm saying like helpless, like you're 10 years old. I'm saying, so maybe a kid nowadays would have a cell phone so they can call 911, but like still like, okay, come get us. Where are you? You know, like we had to like bring the guys back to where this whole thing happened.
Yeah.
And then also like, even if you're 10, even if you know CPR, it's really hard to do CPR that size to a full-grown person, and even then, like we found out later, like they basically said that like he was probably gone before he hit the floor. So even if we had known everything to do, and even if we had cell phones, and even if we knew to do CPR, and even if we, you know, like it was maybe if we had a defibrillator with us, then maybe we could have done something.
Maybe.
But, you know,
and at that time, that technology was still fairly new, so
non-existent. I'm not sure. Yeah, I mean, like. There wasn't really anything to do. I mean, I'm saying like this. That's like the other thing. I mean, I happen to be you know, religious, coming from that type of perspective. Mean, from that perspective, God says it's time to go. Like, you know, you can sit there and be like, but I have to. It's like, see ya.
I as much as it's done as a as it's said in jest, the old joke, you know, if we're on a plane and the plane's rocking and all of a sudden, well, if the plane goes down, I'm okay, it's my time. And everybody else on the plane goes, yeah, but what if it's not ours? And it's like, well, I hate to say it, but guess what? We all got on the plane at the right time, according to him. I've experienced the same thing. I can share that another time. But I've experienced having, and I was the one that had to do CPR.
Wow.
But I experienced what that means, that usually when it's at that point, the amount of survivability is very small, because most times it's too late.
Well, if CPR started within, like, I mean, they say there's like all these charts, you know, if you start CPR within 5 minutes, then it's like a higher survivability. If you start within 10 minutes, it's a much lower. I mean, it just
most of
second
them
that passes,
every second counts, but most of the ones that are started are usually past the 5-minute mark, because nobody's really figured out what's going on until it's that point. And it's good that they still do it. You should still do it, because you never know. There's that other percentage, you know, maybe they're that percentage. But the amount of trauma that gives to kids, especially knowing that you can't do anything because you can't, you don't have the weight, you don't have the strength, you don't have the endurability. You really don't know what to do anyway. And now you have to you have to go back to school and still keep going and still keep learning and still
Yeah.
keep evolving. I mean, how do you do that? I mean, you're in a position now where you're looking at being somebody that came from that event, and I'm sure there were more since
That
then.
was I tell people that was the catalyst for a rocky set of teenage years. The way that I put it in a lot of my profiles is that, and I use quote marks because I'm just joking. I'm not like seriously trying to say that I have a PhD, but I use quote marks around. But I say that I have a PhD from the School of Hard Knocks, and or from the, you could also say from the School of Doing Stupid Things.
I know this school. I know that school well. Have been
I know
there.
there are a lot of people who know these schools.
Participated in the Hawaiian version. Trust me.
Yeah, I mean, run-ins with the law, and different drug use and just partying, and I hate to say the wrong people because like I still know those people, I still love them, but let's say a bunch of people that were also doing the wrong things, and it's just
I think
it's
when
hard.
we're
I mean, it's hard.
just for us. I mean, I'm not as young as I used to be, but when I was, I noticed that there were a lot of bad decisions made, and I think a lot of that, a portion of it, had to do with just wanting to be the rebel without a cause and go do whatever the heck I wanted to, and I think the other part of it was just not having any direction. That was me. Did you find that kind of similar to what you were at that point, or?
Yeah, I mean, so there was an element of like wanting to be a rebel. So I'm going to talk a little bit about something that I know that happens within my own community.
Yeah, do it.
It happens within other communities as well. There's this new phenomena that like when somebody's doing the wrong thing, like, just pat them on the back, and, and I'm not, there's like a lot of thoughts over here, so give me a few, but I'm not saying like, don't love kids who are going through a hard time.
Right.
That's what I'm saying.
Right.
But sometimes it requires tough love, and
Yep.
we've gotten to a point where tough love like doesn't exist. I'll give you an example. My cousin, he was going through a hard time also, and so I think he like boosted his mom's car, and so again, right? So we're talking like a joyride with his mom's car, like late at night, Now, there was a whole family discussion between my mom's sisters and my granddad, and he was a hard ass. I mean, if you've ever watched that '70s show, I think Red Foreman, he even looked a little bit like Red Foreman, but like Red Foreman times like 10, like there was one time, he's gone now, but I'm saying there was one time with I think my cousin was like 5 or 6 years old or something, 8 years old, and like he's sitting like right there, and my granddad's like, yeah, when are you gonna stop smoking all that pot? I'm like, my cousin's like right there, man. Come on. Yeah, he's like a Boston personality. Like he just doesn't care. He's like, I'm gonna say it as it is, and you better deal with it. It was like a tough love thing. It wasn't coming from like an asshole thing. It was coming from
No. That's so we get those. You're right. This happens in every community. They all have them.
Oh no, so,
it's that one person that completely is like, yeah, I don't care about what you think of what I'm saying. It needs to be heard.
And so eventually, like the family decision was that like they should call the cops, throw him in jail. And so they I think they did that, and I think he kind of sat in jail for like 2 or 3 days. Now, I'm not going to say that that's a recommended thing to do. That may have gone overboard, and he may have gotten in trouble a few more times after that. But I will tell you that like nowadays, I mean, he's a great guy. I mean, like, he takes really, he's got a daughter. He's like, raising a single dad, like taking good care of her, like,
awesome.
Like
awesome.
And like I've gone through stuff like that also. It didn't necessarily come from my parents. I mean, I will tell you that there were a couple times here or there where I needed bail posted, and I would not call my parents because I didn't think they would post it.
Oh.
I'd call my boss or whatever, and he, the one time like that I remember that there was, I called my boss, and he called my brother, and he said, listen, I'll back the money, but you go do everything that needs to be done. So my brother called, got in touch with the bail bonds, and did all this stuff and everything. My boss paid him back, and then I took care of the money with my boss. But I'm saying, they have that TV show Scared Straight. They're trying to get views, so I don't know how real
that's a different kind of tough love. It's a program that's been in existence for a long time, and it has helped a lot of kids, and it's also not helped a lot of kids.
Yeah, right. Every kid needs something else. That's what it comes down to. But what I'm saying is like sitting there. I have a point to all this, and I'm sorry that I'm just jumping
No,
around
that's
to get there.
that's what we do, brother.
The point is like my cousin like had this like difficult thing that happened to him because he like ended up, you know, not serving hard time, but like he ended up inside for a few days because of this. And I ended up, there was a couple times when I was inside for a few days, and like it should, and it did for me, and it seems like it did for him, scare the bejeepers out of you, you know? And that's like actually like a really good thing, because like I think for kids who are like getting in trouble, because it's kind of sits there and says, okay, don't do that. But the point of it is that like when there was a degree of like implied reward that I saw for becoming like a badass.
Yeah.
You know, because I see all these kids who are going through this stuff, these kids who are 2 or 3 years older than I am, that I'm a little bit friends with. And like, they're like, everybody's like, oh, you're having a hard time. You're like off the beaten path. You're like dropping out of school. And like, you've got all this stuff going on. Well, we're going to take you paintballing. We're going to take you, you know, this, we're going to do this other really cool thing with you. We're going to like, you know, take you out of your parents' house and put you in a house of your own where you can like watch TV most of the day. And like, give you like arcade games and pool tables, and like, you can do whatever you want. And then like, they get in touch with, they go to the guy who's like in charge of the program, and they're like, yo, you rabbi, you know, like, and like what I, you know, but what I'm saying is like, and I'm still trying to figure out the balance for this and everything else. And I've done work with like youths and whatnot since then, but I don't know that capitulating to every request is the right way to go. Because what it ends up doing is it ends up saying like, you can just do whatever you want and we're going to give you a reward. And so then the kids who wouldn't end up in those places otherwise are like, well, if they're getting all that for doing that, if I act out, then I'm going to get all that.
Right.
And then they start acting out, and then they start getting rewarded for acting out. So it's like, I mean, definitely you need to show these kids like a lot of love, and you need to sit there and be like, you know, how can I help you and whatever. But I mean, you know, I was telling you I was working with a youth program, and so I took him hiking one time, and like this kid's like sitting there with this one kid. He like, I guess, I don't know if he was testing me or if he was just being a jackass or whatever, but like, we're sitting there, we're like on this cliff or something, and he takes the bottle of water he's been drinking. He like looks me straight in the face and just chucks it off the cliff. And I laid into him. I'm like, dude, you can't do that. And he's like, what do you mean? What the hell? You know, like whatever. And I'm like, can't do that. And like I went into this whole thing, like, you know, you're hiking, you're in nature, you don't just throw a bottle of water down, you know, like you can't do that. We're like, we don't want to leave a mark. I'm like, I don't have to take you. Like, I'll take everybody else, and I'll leave your ass at home, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
and so it's interesting because like, I mean, I didn't like make him cry or anything like that, but I like told him how it was, you know?
Stuff like that. And I've had to do this too, years previous, where somebody might say something disrespectful to an elder or something like that. Yeah. It's a little tougher back in Hawaii. So it becomes one of those things where if they mouth off, it's kind of like, I think you might want to reconsider what you're saying because you're not quite clear who you're talking to. Yeah. And they're like,
because they won't take it, by the way. They will take it. Yep. The kids or the adults, you're saying?
Some of the adults will take it. So some of us younger adults will step in and go, I'm sorry, that's not proper. You are going to correct yourself. You're going to apologize, and you're going to tell them you love them. And the moment the younger one starts mouthing off, it's like, okay, let me explain something to you.
Not okay. Not acceptable. Yeah.
Not acceptable. And if you want to go any further, let me know. There's a back door right out there that we can go and talk.
And have a long talk.
And oh no, it won't be long. Trust me. But no, the idea there, honestly, is just, you know, there's respect that's should be had as a default. You know, we've
taken a deep step away from that.
It's really odd to me.
General.
It's like, I know people who I love and respect for their expertise and stuff, and their attitude is, well, you have to earn my respect. And it's like, if I don't know you, and I'm your elder, you will respect me if you want my respect. I have nothing to earn from you. The old way is you respect your elders. Well, I don't have to respect my elders because my elders didn't respect me. I'm like, well, then you were the wrong elders, for one. And two, that's just not how it works.
So there's two things. First of all, happy ending with that story with the kid out in the woods.
Yes, please.
When we got to the end of the trail, right? He comes over to me and he's like, by the way, look what I did. And he holds up, like, I think he collected 3 bottles, not the one that he dropped down.
That's awesome.
But he's like, I found garbage in the woods to like make up for what I did. And I'm like, all right.
Perfect. And that is the kind of stuff that should happen.
Right. And so like the leader of the program, he's like, you know, because that was like my trial day, you know, like before they sat there and brought me on to do this. The leader of the program is like, I told everybody, he's like, that you got this. He's like, you just had like instant rapport with the kids and like, you know, everything was working out. And then like when he tested you, you called him out on it immediately and you were like, no way, that's not going to be okay. And like, you know, so, you know, anyways, that's one thing. The other thing is we actually have a concept in, you know, in Judaism that I think it's the age is like 70. It's like if somebody hits the age of 70, right? Not everybody does, right? A lot of people die at 68 and 65 and 60 and whatever. Somebody hits the age of 70, they've done something right, maybe, or they've done something to be respected for, maybe. I mean, there's a lot of different ways to look at it, but like they've made it a certain distance, and therefore, just by the virtue of the fact that they're 70, they are to be respected and stuff. And now in the world we live in, we don't necessarily show them the same level of respect and what we're supposed to do. But, you know, technically, again, people don't do it in general, like as a whole, in which case it's not really required, whatever. It's a complicated thing, but basically you're supposed to stand up. You know, when they walk into the room, you're supposed to be like, oh, 75-year-old guy walked in the room, time to stand up, you know? Well, he's not, you know, a learned man. He's not like, you know, a justice or anything. And it's like, no, he's an elderly, he's elderly in the sense that he made it past that age. And by virtue of the fact that he's that old and he's lived through all the life experiences that he's lived with and through getting to 70, I mean, you know, you show respect. And certainly for like an 80 or a 90-year-old, I'm saying.
A lot of the martial arts communities are like that too. If you make certain belts and you're a belt below, you show them respect. They've gone through the testing, they've gone through the tournaments or whatever they've been through. They know a little bit more. They can actually help you to get to that next level. So you show them respect. If you don't, they're not going to want to help you. You know, and that goes back to the master and then the grandmaster. The grandmaster is a real trip. I know a few of them. And it's interesting. I used to, one that is no longer with us, he used to walk into the room before he walked into the room. If you understand that concept.
I've been in martial arts circles many years ago, but I'm not sure what you mean by that.
His energy would walk in before he did.
Oh, okay.
He would feel the room out before he ever walked in the room, so he would know who was in there. And it's funny because the one time I visited one of his black belts classes, I was sitting off in the corner. And everybody was practicing doing their thing, blah, blah, blah. And then all of a sudden I sat up and I went, what is that? And then in comes walking the GM. And I looked up and I went, it's him. and the first thing he does, he walks in and he looks straight at me and he goes, I says, hi, Sifu, how are you? And he looks at me and he goes, what are you doing over here? Are you helping out with the class? I was like, no, I'm not helping out. I'm just watching. And he looks at me and he goes, you can help with the class. I'm like, no, I can't. I'm not ranked in this class. It's not going to happen. Forget it. And he's like, oh, no, maybe you should. I'm like, nope, not going to happen. But it was a recognition thing that, I mean, he is Sifu no matter what, or Qigong, if you will. And that was his place. And his black belts were still, to me, I respect them too, because by rank, they were above me, right, even with all the stuff that I've learned. So I still give them respect as well. It's when that happens and the humility is in place. And I think this is in any belief system. When humility is in place before pride or ego, a lot more gets done in a lot shorter time because people are more willing to help. And I think that's a mindset thing.
Absolutely. So, I mean, going back to the same thing, I mean, I'm just bringing up a lot of stuff, but whatever it fits, I'm saying, you know, so.
No, go.
I don't remember where the concept comes from. I probably should be quoting who it comes from, but I don't remember who at this time.
We'll find it.
But the idea is, there's an idea about respect that maybe it's that, you know, respect is unique and stuff, but the more you run after respect, the more respect runs away from you.
Yeah.
And the more you run away from respect, the more it chases you. So it's literally a humility thing, right? If you remain humble and you are giving respect to other people and you're like, no, I don't want the respect that you are trying to shower upon me, the more that it actually comes to you and it's well earned. And the more that you're like, oh, please give me more respect. Come on, please respect me more. The more people are like, no thanks, no interest.
Yeah.
And it's hard to do that because like that's how I try to live my life. But you know, being a speaker, like there's a certain level of like it's hard. I mean, like, I don't want to be haughty or anything like that, or like talk myself up. But
Right.
if I don't do that, because the market is a little bit saturated and stuff, if I
Mhm.
don't do that, nobody's going to hear about me. So it's, I constantly am trying to strike this balance of like, no, 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 I shun all respect. I don't really need to, you know, I mean, for certainly my own community, I can do that because, you know, people, I can sit there and just, you know, just be in the background and not like, and you know, do things, but not do things in a way that like people feel like they need to like give me recognition.
Right.
But like in the speaking world, sometimes I'm like, "Oh, I don't want to do this in my head, but meanwhile I'm like, oh yeah, like look at me.
So there's two schools of thought on that one, and I totally get where you're coming from, um, with regards to self promotion in the needs of marketing versus self humility, which can be balanced. There's an absolute balance that can be stricken, even with the saturation that's in the marketplace. Now,
Love love to hear more about this.
half of that. Well, you're a marketer, so you know where I'm going to go with this here in a second. Um,
Okay.
one of the things about self promotion with humility is the ability to portray your message without sounding like you're throwing your message or pushing your message on somebody. You've already been living by example. You've written a book, which is a great place to showcase what it is that you've been through, and you're consistently out sharing. When you posture yourself as someone who just wants to share, which is what you've been doing anyway, who just wants to share to inspire others, you're no longer you're no longer asking for respect, you're commanding respect. There's a difference when you walk into a room.
From your mouth to God's ears.
When you walk into a room, there's a difference between demanding and commanding. And this has to do with how you present yourself when you first walk in. If you walk in with your chest puffed and your nose in the air, you're demanding respect. When you walk in with your nose level and your body at still even what they call stasis, you know, when your back's not over curved, it's not arched, it's normal, but your shoulders are back, you are commanding respect, because at that point people are going to turn and go, okay, he's not a stuck-up shithead because his nose ain't in the air, but he ain't looking at the ground either. Who is he? You've been taken notice of. At that point, you already got some respect. And I hear this all the time when I walk into a room. I ask people, what did you see when I walked in? They said, we saw somebody who was confident, not an asshole, not a you know, full of himself. I said,
Fascinating.
and since we've been talking, how have I presented myself? Have I presented myself as someone respectable and at least somewhat humble? They're like, we don't even know what the hell you do yet. You've been talking about us all this time. I'm like, perfect. So you get the point. There's a difference between being self-promoting, because you have to market yourself. You're absolutely right. When it comes to speaking, there's a shit ton of people out there. If you don't promote yourself, you ain't getting hurt. And then being out there saying, well, I'm the best, I'm this. And I know some speakers like this, and I've told them this already and they don't listen. It's like, all right, dude, do what you're doing. You're making 6 figures, 8 figures, whatever. I don't care.
Some people who look like they're doing that stuff, or who it seems like that's how they're doing it. I mean, they're just, you know, blowing up because there are people who are attracted to that for some reason, and I don't get it. But there are people who are attracted to that kind of thing, like, you know,
They're attracted to the ego because they themselves haven't found that their own ego is what's killing them. This is what I've seen.
You should write that down and put it on your website, because that's a good quote right there.
Well, I'll have to come back and listen to it and write it down. Guys, we got to take a short pause. We've been going, and I warned Ari about this. We run down rabbit holes. We'll be talking long. We're going to take a short 30-second break. We'll be right back. We're going to talk a little bit more about what inspires him and what's changed and how all of his transformations have happened. So give us 30. We'll be right back. And we're back. It's Java Chat here interviewing Ari Gunzberg. And we were just talking about a few things with regards to speaking and how to stay away from ego when it comes to promoting and marketing and stuff like that. And entrepreneurs that are out there listening to this, please go listen to that first section again, because there's a huge difference. This section, we talk about what inspires. You had a transformational point somewhere along that line. I'd like you to touch on that. When did the bells and whistles start going off for you? And what inspired you to you know, you wrote a book. You're now a speaker. You go out and you help inspire people to do. Where did all this come from, and how did this all come to be?
Okay, so there's a bunch of a bunch of directions to go there, because that was a bunch of different aspects to that question. But the first thing is, it sounds like you're looking more for the transformational moment
Hmm.
where I decided to go into
That's
like
the first one.
inspiring. Okay, fine. Because meaning I'm saying, first of all, I've had a lot of different transformational times in my life,
Hmm.
as we all have.
Yeah.
That's really kind of what life is, we're going through these different things, and this happens, we have to kind of adjust and change what we do and how we are, and then something else happens, and so that's kind of like what life is.
Yeah.
Life is a never ending. And the people who say, but I just want to be comfortable, and I say it also, I'm not innocent of this, but the people who say, I just want to be comfortable already, I just want to stay with what I've got, I'm in a good place right now, that's not what life is. Life
Right.
is about growth, and if you're comfortable, you're not growing. So and I'm preaching to the choir here, because I'm like trying to tell myself this right now as we're speaking. But we grow by learning, and we grow by putting ourselves into positions that are difficult for ourselves,
Yeah.
and that's how we grow. But so that transformational moment, a few years ago, when I was doing graphics and website design, and I had like a little publication that I was doing that
Hmm.
was really not doing so well, but I kept
Hmm.
on like trying to keep it alive, entrepreneurial. And I started working
Ah,
with a
the
business
joys of
coach.
entrepreneurship. Fuck.
Oh boy, some of
FAAHK.
the So I started working with a business coach, like, what the hell am I doing? And
Mhm,
should I continue in this career?
mhm.
And the first thing we did is we got rid of that publication. I mean, he's like, if it's doing wildly well, what's the best possible number that it's going to create for you? And I sat there and did the math, and I said, yep, that's over. Because I was like, wow,
There you go.
that was a clarifying question, right? Because if I
Yeah.
sit there and I look at it and realize that the max it'll ever make is 250 grand, maybe 500 grand if it's doing phenomenally well,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Saying that's not like a golden, like, everybody wants to work on something because maybe it'll be the unicorn,
Right.
right? And we don't necessarily need that $1 billion unicorn, right? For a lot of us, let's say if we can create a company that's worth $10 million, we're
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
But if that max number of what you're working on is 500 grand, you better love what you're doing. You better be changing lives daily, because that's not a lot of money. I'm
Nope.
saying, in the big scheme of things, to be an entrepreneur, to deal with all the stuff. So
Mhm.
anyways, but as we were talking and stuff, like, I don't even remember exactly how speaking and coaching and like this type of stuff came up, but it came up. And like at the same time, and we're going to just jump a little bit into another part of the question at this point, at the same time, right around that same time, somebody asked me to come and speak to a bunch of kids that were in the juvenile delinquents detention center, right, incarcerated,
Right.
some of them possibly for life.
Oof.
And she was like, these kids don't know anything about careers. All they know is that you can be a police officer, you can be a drug dealer, you can be a teacher, or you can be a parole, whatever. I'm saying, like, all they know is what they've experienced. I want people to come in and tell them about other careers.
Yeah.
So at first I said no. I didn't want to go inside. I just, I was like, been there, done that. No thanks. Thank you, no. But I realized that I actually could connect with the guys and really connect with them and be like, look, I know what you're going through at least a little bit, because like I've been there.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so I ended up going in and speaking to them, and like, it was crazy, by the way,
Mhm.
because I kind of made the decision to like flip over to this right around the same time. Then I go in and I do this, and I'm like, yeah, this is kind of what I want to do. But the craziest thing was, the morning of, and this is almost 4 years ago. I can tell because it happened like a few weeks before my third child, my daughter, was born, and she's turning 4 in a little bit.
Nice.
So
So how many kids you got?
4.
Jeez.
Yeah, they're amazing.
I thought
They're a
one was.
handful, but they're
I
amazing.
thought one was tough.
Yeah, they're amazing, but a handful. But anyways, so I'm stressed out because, like, there's a birth imminent any day now.
Yeah.
And I sit there and I, like, write down my whole story. I'm like, oh, I can help them. I'll tell them my story. And then, like, I had this moment of, like, I guess what they call it. I didn't know what to call it at the time, but I guess what they call it is imposter syndrome.
Oh yeah.
And
Oh
I'm
yeah.
like, why do I think that they could care less about my story? They want to hear about careers. Why do I think that they could care less about my story? And I'm like about to like sit there and just chuck it. And I'm like, you know what? Before I sit there and just say I'm not going to do it, why don't I leave it up to them? Like, I came prepared with a talk about marketing and
Mhm.
design and stuff
Mhm.
like that, and I
Mhm.
came prepared with a story. So I said, look, I walk in there and I'm like, listen guys, you know, like I've been where you've been, and I can really feel, you know, and I'd like to tell you my story, but only if you guys really want to hear it. If you guys don't want to hear it, no problem. We'll go straight into the career aspect of it. By a show of hands, who wants to hear my story? And almost every hand in the audience went up. And I'm like, all right, let's do this.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you know, so a number of hours later, because like I just kept, you know, it was a give and take. You know, I told them my story for like 45 minutes or an hour, and then we did this whole marketing exercise for like 45 minutes or an hour, and basically what we did is we created a product, branding, name, etc., color scheme, etc., stuff like that. And so when I got home, I was like so fired up from
I
like
bet.
from like working with these kids, and they did such a great job, right? Because they, you know, they don't have that confidence or anything, right? Like the name of everything, like it was almost a joke, and like a guy sat there and was like, you know, the name, it was a laundry detergent called Fresh, right?
Okay.
And so like this guy, he's like almost joking and almost like, you know, whatever, he's like, if it ain't fresh, it ain't the best. And everybody starts laughing at him, like almost like pointing fingers at him, and I'm like, no, that was really good.
Yeah, because
You
it's
know?
catchy.
Yeah, it's catchy, you know, and so whatever. But I went home and I did a graphic design project where I grabbed like a laundry detergent bottle and I designed it, and I put label on it and everything else, and I sent it to her, and she printed it out and she brought it into the kid, and they were like, wow, you know, like he's got mad skills. And it's like
I think a lot of people forget that the human creativity is a lot more than people think, especially if you just give them enough to chew on.
yes. And they did a phenomenal job. I mean, they did a really good job. And so I mean, but that like kind of like pushed me into this thing, and I'm like, wow, like I can really help people. And that was also kind of like a transformational moment for me, because I started to realize that I had lived through a lot of stuff, a lot of crazy things, and I had been to a lot of dark places.
Yeah.
And you know, I'm not sure exactly why or how, but I felt like I needed to like push it away and hide it, and like I didn't really want people to know about it. You know, like you want to be a stand-up member of your community, and part of being a stand-up member of your community is not sitting there and being like, by the way, when I was 16, I was, you know, this is what happened. And when I was 17, this is what happened. And when I was 19, and it's not like, you know, oh, well, that one time that it's like, well, you know, I've been like, you know, a few times. How many? I don't know. You know, it's not like really how you sit there and like say like, you know, oh, like, you know, I'm just a regular person in the community and stuff.
Right.
But I realized that I can help people, and that there's so much more value in that than my own, I'm not going to say self-respect, because that's not the word that I'm looking for, but my own self-image, not self-image either, because I know what I did, but, you know, then putting on this facade of like, you know, ooh, look at me, I'm you know, just a regular Joe Schmo.
Yeah.
And so, you know, that's when I kind of like, because like some of this stuff, some of the stories that I'm putting out there, some of the videos that I put out there, some of this stuff, like, you can't go back and erase it. Like I can't sit there and get back in touch with like different podcast hosts and say, no, you got to take that down. I mean, people have already heard it. Like it's out. Like once you start telling these stories, it's out there. Like you can't pull it back. And so I had to make the decision that like, I'm just not going to care about the fact that it's going to be hard, kind of somewhat hard to get a normal job ever again. You know, there's no coming back from it, but you know, if I can, like what I tell people a lot of times, if I can help even one person, and hopefully I'll help a lot more than that, but if I can help even one person, and there's many different ways that I can help, many different avenues. If I can help even one person, it all becomes worth it. And that's the amazing thing. So then, I think we kind of like, we needed to get over to like the book and everything, right?
Well, yeah. And that was where I was going to take this, is you had that transformational moment. You started realizing you can coach. So what inspired the book?
So I have this concept that I can't tell you more about because it's not fully fleshed out. I would say the idea is probably 70% of the way there, and whatever. So I have this concept of like this program, this really, really easy, really replicable program that is like set up to be grassroots, and like I want to give it to the world, and I want to do it because it'll help create happiness, it'll help create self-worth, self-confidence, and like, you know, and I'm not trying to sit there, you know, there's people out there who are like, oh, I'm going to make you the most confident person in the world. Just pay me $3,000 a month. And you're like, that's great, but I'm going to stay over here.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I'm not, you know, would I like to make some money off of it? Look, we all got to live, right? But my purpose behind it is not to sit there and like try and charge people an arm and a leg. Like my purpose behind it is to literally give it to the world, create this grassroots movement. And, you know, I'll have a book about it. So I'll sell some books and I'll be able to speak about it. So I'll be able to, you know, make some speaking fees and stuff. but the main goal of it is to really to like sit there and create that change and create that help with people. So I have this whole concept, and I like it's been sitting on me for a couple of years, and I actually told it to my brother at one point, and he's like, I had the exact same idea, or very, very similar. And he sat there and got into his own brain and was like, it's not worth it. I can't do it. But I didn't. And I still believe in the idea, and I still believe it's going to be amazing. And there's been a million things getting in my way, unfortunately. But, you know, so last summer I was like, okay, that's it. I'm going to write the book.
Okay.
Before fleshing out the concept, which apparently I learned a few months ago, I could tell you about that, was a bad idea, but I'm going to write the book. And so I took like a summer position so that my kids could have like a fantastic summer. It was potentially, we didn't think it was, but now we're finding out that maybe it was. It was the last year maybe that my mother-in-law was cooking at the camp that she cooked at for many, many years. It was still too early for my daughter to go because she wasn't in the right age group unless we went. So we went and we took a job for the summer, and she got to go and have her summer by her grandmother's camp and everything. It was like really cool. And I had this vision that like, you know, I was going to like have most of my day taken care of. So I wouldn't think about anything except for, did you hear my daughter in the other room?
Yes, I did. It's adorable.
So I had this vision that like, I would sit there and like the whole day would be focused on this, you know, work for the camp. And then like, I'd grab like 2 hours in the morning, 2 hours at night and like work on a book. Didn't happen. I didn't realize how much of my time was going to be taken up with what I was doing, plus family time, plus this time. Didn't get anything done. But what did happen was I was in a car for many, many hours of the day. That's what I was doing. I was driving around for them, you know, and it's upstate. So it's like, oh, go run an errand to the corner store, 30 minutes there, 30 minutes back.
Right.
Oh, go take the kid to the doctor, 45 minutes there, wait for 2 hours, 45 minutes back, you know, like just constantly. So, and, you know, I drove like 8,000 or 9,000 miles throughout the summer.
Goodness.
In that car. And, you know, that's not
I mean, in 3 months,
I did in my own car.
Holy crap.
Yeah, no, in like 2.5 months. Yeah, exactly.
Sheesh.
But listen, I'm saying like I'm a driver. Like I'm fine with like driving for hours and hours and hours. I get books, I listen to them, and then I turn on music, and then like I'll sit there and think. And I had so much time to like process stuff, and I just was like thinking like these 5 keys kept on basically just like popping into my head and being like, you know, you have to like develop this concept more and more and more and more. And I would come up and be like, and it wasn't 5 keys, right? I was just sitting there and saying like, what makes a great life? And I sat there and kept on coming up and like, you know, well, what about this? And, you know, I ended up with a decent sized list. Maybe it was like 10 things or so. But then I started saying like, no, really like this particular thing, like patience, let's say, right? Well, you don't need to sit there and call patience a key because patience really fits into persistence.
Right.
In order to be persistent, you need to be patient.
Yep.
And, you know, so that's just one example. So you have all these different things. And I sat there and just started saying, no, that's really a subcategory of a larger one. And I ended up with 5 things. And so then by the time I had those, I was like, you know, really, I should probably do this book first.
Yeah.
You know, so I started the book on a plane trip when I was going abroad back in January. And, you know, things I keep on trying to get, you know, doing self-promotion and doing this and doing that and family time and everything else. And one thing led to another, and I just basically didn't touch it again. And then the COVID hit and things got even crazier. And then come mid-May, I'm like, that's it. You know, we're in the middle of COVID. There's nothing doing. I'm going to get this book done. And so I sat there and started making time every single day, first thing in the morning. You know, this is the Java chat. I'd wake up in the morning, make my coffee, sit down, and I'm like, I'm not doing anything else until I write.
Yep.
And like, I guarded that time so jealously in order to make sure that it happened. And, you know, so I sat there and, you know, it was, okay, what's going on in the book? How's it going to work, etc. Cranked the whole thing out. And then once it took me like mid-May to like mid-July, I guess, or beginning or mid-July or something. And, I think I got it up to like 65 or 68,000 words at one point.
Nice.
But then they say there's this whole concept in writing of like murder your darlings, right? Stephen King talks about it. And when he talks about it, he's quoting somebody else. And I don't remember who he originally quotes. But after you write, you need to edit.
Yeah.
And edit really, really, really aggressively. And I didn't realize that in previous writing projects of mine. And with this one, like I sat there, I sent it out to some people and I was waiting for them to tell me, you know, this is the next 1 minute manager or whatever, you know, this is the next whatever. And crickets. And I'd reach out to them and be like, hey, did you get a chance to read the book yet? And like crickets. Or they'd be like, oh, not yet or whatever. And like one person got back to me and he's like, yeah, I started reading it. And like, you know, and he told me some things that were like at issue with it. And I'm like, and this is somebody who like sometimes is like a little bit of a negative voice sometimes to me, or feels like that to me, although he tells me that he's doing it from, you know, a realistic place.
Yeah.
Whatever. So, but so I couldn't really fully hear what he had to say. And then I finally got somebody to kind of like respond to me a little bit. And I'm like, it's a little long, isn't it? And he's like, yeah, it just meanders a lot. And I'm like, okay, we gotta like really, really, really aggressively take this thing down. And so I brought it down to like 45,000 words.
There you go.
Yeah. And like there were certain parts that like I did, you know, one of the pieces of feedback was like, you know, you're telling me that this book is about the 5 keys to greatness. In the first iteration, like you were like 13 or 14,000 words into the book before you heard about the first one.
Yeah, that's a little too far.
Yeah, so now it's like 3,000 or 4,000 words. You know, like there's like there are a few chapters, but you know, you're getting to those keys of great, you know, fairly quickly. You know,
you need pretext, you need context, and then you need content.
Exactly.
I got one book I have to re-release. It's the same story. I went through the same thing, brother.
Yeah. So I did a lot of extensive editing and stuff, and so now, you know, I mean, the feedback that I'm getting from it is very, very positive. It's written in a story format, so it's not like the typical self-help book where you're like, you know, here's the things I think you should do. Maybe some of them, here's some action items. Next chapter, here's more new stuff. You know, and let me create my case. You know, it's told in the format of a story. You know, a guy's going like through a really hard time. I think most people can see themselves in what this guy is going through. And you know, so if you see yourself in this character or in the other characters in the book, then you can start seeing yourself doing the exact same things. And it just lays out the system, lays out the reasons behind it, lays out why it's valuable. And I mean, listen, the system is so simple, right? You can remember it in like 3 seconds, right? And I can tell it to you in like 3 seconds, and you can just sit there and think about it and think about it and think about it. But you know, this is, I mean, hopefully it's a decent introduction to it and stuff. And that's the story of the book. And now I'm like, you know, trying to still tell people about the 5 keys to greatness, hopefully changing lives here and there. And you know, hopefully people can get a chance to like pick up the book and take a look at it and you know, learn something from it.
Well, we're definitely going to be putting the links down below when it comes to that point.
Fantastic.
There's so much running through my brain right now. Well, because a lot of what you hit one, obviously one of the categories is persistence, if I'm catching that correctly. Without giving away all 5, because we want them to read the bloody book.
So I'm very conflicted about this, by the way. You know, at first I thought, you know, I don't want to give away the keys, and then I'm realizing more and more people, first of all, a lot of the reviewers ended up writing out what the 5 keys are. And second of all, the people who are going to buy the book are going to buy the book, and the people who aren't are not, I think. You know,
well, I was going to say, feel free to share a couple of them. I mean,
I have, you know, I've got a video course we finished recording last week.
Cool.
And it's currently in post-production, and it's the 5 keys to greatness, and it's designed that it's presenting the same 5 keys to greatness, obviously, but it's not presenting it in the same way as this book. We're also working on a workbook for the 5 keys to greatness so that people can do specific exercises to like integrate these things into their life. But the idea is that, again, right, like with the other program I was telling you about, I don't want people to feel like, oh, he's trying to make a buck. Look, you know, you want to support my work, buy the book. You know, like even if you don't read it, it would be great. Buy the book, whatever. But the 5 keys, I'm saying, like, you know, if you really, really, really want to know what they are, you can do searches. You can sit there, you can find stuff, and you'll be able to find content online that will tell you what the 5 keys are. So I've decided I don't really care. I'll share them anytime.
It gets
once I have my site up. Yeah, once I have my site up, I'm even going to sit there and give away a downloadable thing of the 5 keys to greatness. I'll tell you what they are for free. I don't care.
Yeah.
I really just want people to use them. That's the main thing.
You have
I still haven't said what they are yet.
Oh, that's okay. That's okay. I want to make a point before you do say what they are.
Yes.
I have another friend who is a big advocate of the Go Giver. If you remember that book, go get it. It's a short book. It's really cool. And you have that Hawaiians call it ano. You are that kind of person where you believe that giving the value away will show people that you have no fear of the value that you have to share and give. 2, you probably got a lot more behind it because you understand the concepts better than anybody. You can probably help them understand it better. So they'd want to hire you for other things anyway. So it's the right mentality, no matter how you look at it. It's fine. If you want to share them, yeah, what are they, dude? I mean,
all right. So it's super, super, super easy to remember what they are. All you have to do is remember the word great, right? It's the 5 keys to greatness. Remember the word great, you've got it. The first key is give, right? You want to just integrate more giving into your life. And there's so many ways to do that. A lot of people will say, oh, give. What does that mean? Like charity? No, it means anything. Open the door for somebody, smile at somebody, say hi to somebody, say thank you. Give somebody an ear when they're thinking of, there's so many ways to give. And we're not going to go deeply into that because we're not going to go deeply into any of them. But the second one is reason, right? You want to have a defining reason in major areas of your life. And I recommend one defining reason for work, one defining reason for home. Because nobody likes to go to work and say, oh, is it the weekend yet? And it's Monday morning, 9 a.m. But if you create a meaning behind what you're doing, then it just helps that tremendously. So give, reason. The third one is engage, right? We want to be more present in the present moment.
Oh, now you're talking my game. Wait, I'm going to send you a copy of the book that I wrote. It's
awesome.
It's American Business Etiquette, and the whole premise of the damn thing is be present.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. I was talking to somebody the other day. It was like a quick networking call. And like in the middle of the call, all of a sudden, like she like sat there and passed the role of talking over to me. She presented herself,
right?
And then tell me a little bit about this. And I get started, and the next thing I know, it's you know what I did? I'm like sitting there, I'm talking, and it was a good moment, and I was like, yeah. And then I came out with my book. I'm sitting there like this, and I'm waiting. And finally, she looks up and she's like, "Oh, very nice." And I'm like,
"Oh, yeah, no."
Whatever.
Yeah, no.
Anyways, we all can be better at being present, but yes. Be more engaged with your own life and with the lives of the people around you. So
absolutely,
that's the third key. Amazing, right? And that's like more mindset, be positive, positivity, stuff like that. That's the fourth key. And the T is for tenacity, persistence.
There it is.
Right? Things don't happen except by people who remain persistent despite all hardship.
Yeah.
And then I do have like a little supplement, which at first when I was teaching it, I would say these are required, but now I realize they're not that required. If you want to really implement them, you'll use them, but if you do, you'll use these 2 extra pieces. But if you don't, the 5 keys can still help you, but the 2 extra things are passion and action. You got to be passionate about what you're doing, and you have to focus your passion in the right direction, right? Think like a drug addict, right? Being passionate about heroin's not getting you anywhere good. And action, right? If you don't take action, nothing's doing.
Did you ever see that? And it was a clip that was rolling around about Joe Rogan doing some stand-up talking about how marijuana might make you forget things.
No, I forget.
It was so funny because Joe's he's a good comedian. Okay. He's standing on stage and he's talking about everybody's against marijuana because it makes you forget things, and I look at him, I go, no, maybe, but just the stuff that's not important. I'm sorry, but that's the first clip that came to mind when you said that.
There's a great line from many years ago. I think it was Dennis. What's his face? I forget. Dennis Leary, maybe his name is. I don't remember. Right? Okay. He was talking about like DUI, driving under the influence of what?
Yeah.
Right. You got the guy who's I always forget which delivery to do it to make it the funniest, but like you got the guy who's driving like 30 miles an hour and sitting there trying to eat the upholstery, and then the guy who's driving like 120 miles an hour trying to talk to the upholstery. Right. Big difference there.
There's a huge difference. I think you delivered it just right, because the 100 miles an hour talking to the upholstery just makes a whole different impact.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I got this vision in my head of some guy real wide-eyed talking to his chair right next to him, and there's nothing there. It's the insanity that goes with it. So cool. So great. Give, reason, engage, amazing, tenacity, and then passion and action.
Yeah, and then the whole thing is that the separate part of the concept is like people might be like, but I have this other program I was trying to implement, or I was doing this other thing, or this guy told me patience makes a difference, or goals make a difference, or whatever. And basically, like the biggest thing that I tell people is make the 5 keys your own, right? Don't make them what I think they are. Make them what will help you in the best way. And then the second part of that is explore the concept of what you're trying to implement and where it fits into the 5 keys, because I guarantee you it fits in there. And if you can't find it, reach out to me. Send me a message online or whatever, and like we'll find it. Yeah. We'll have a quick little chat. We'll sit there and be like, okay, goals. Well, goals could be, you could look at them as being a part of a reason, or you could look at them as being part of being persistent. Like, how do I be persistent and still reach where I'm trying to go? Whatever it is, patience, persistent, anything that you're looking at, it can fit into one of these other things. And so it's not a contradiction to use both these and a few other systems.
It's amazing that I'm glad you brought that up, because I was going to say, just about every goal setting program I've seen fits somewhere in what you just gave me.
Right.
And this is more of an overarching theme that you can use to cover that program to keep you driven.
Right. And like the whole thing is like, I still use it, and sometimes I use it better than others. And so it's like, you can just look at your life at any particular time and say, am I weak in any of these particular areas? Am I not giving enough right now? Yeah. Am I losing focus on my reason for being? Am I not as engaged as I should be?
Mm-hmm.
Have I lost the ability to like sit there and look at things and be positive about what's happening to me? Like, am I being too negative?
Right.
And am I sitting there and throwing in the towel too quickly?
Right.
Am I giving up too easily? So like, if you're weak in any of these areas, then focus on that area for a little bit and strengthen it.
Yeah, absolutely. It makes total sense. We're going to take one more break, you guys. When we come, wow, dude, we're just
we got it. I got a call coming up, so we're gonna. Go ahead, do your break thing, and we'll wrap up pretty soon.
Yep, absolutely. We'll be back in about 30 seconds, guys. Just hang in there, and we're gonna figure out how you can find Ari. All right, be back in 30. And we're back here, Java Chat with Ari Gunzberg. Last section here is basically figuring out where Ari is now, what he's working on. So what are you working on? What's next?
I'm mostly working on the speaking. Like I was telling you about before, I have that other program, so I am working on hashing out exactly how that works, the structure of the particular program, making it replicable, and then I got to, recruit beta users,
right?
People to sit there and like just try out. Thank you. Send me a message and I'll put you on the list. I have a list somewhere. I have to remember where it is. Recruit some beta users to sit there and start trying this program out and seeing like, okay, well, this really worked. This really didn't work. So instead of sitting there and giving it to the world and saying, this is going to work without ever having tested it, I'll have real feedback from real people.
Got it.
As soon as that's done. So, that's the funny story I was going to tell you about before.
Okay.
I started writing the book to sit there and sell this other program that I was telling you about.
Oh, okay. I get it. Okay.
And I build up this whole thing, and I got like 6,000 words into it, and I have exactly the structure of what I want. And now I'm up to the point where like in the book, I have to have the characters go through the program. And I'm like, crap, what the hell was I thinking? I don't know what the program is. I mean, I don't know the exact structure of the program, so how can they go through this?
Exactly.
And so I was like, all right, we're going to shelve that for a little bit while I sit there and hash out the details of the program, and then we can continue that.
That's kind of that's a slight oopsie there.
Yeah. Like I was like, I finished this first book, and I was like, I want to get started immediately on the next book, and then I was like, crap. Anyways, so that's like, get moving along and everything. And I've got,
awesome.
Like I said, I've got that workbook that I'm coming out with. The video program is currently in post-production with my video guy.
Nice.
And so, I'm working on a bunch of things and just trying to make sure that I'm giving the proper focus to each one that I'm working on. So I try to work on each one individually.
Good.
And
when do we expect to see something like that come out? End of this year, beginning of next year? The new program?
Course?
Yeah. Is it just the video course?
Program.
The new program.
No. So the video course is the 5 keys, and the workbook is the 5 keys. So I want to get those out really before I publish the other book.
Right. Got it.
Once those are out, and then I'm going to start like cranking out the other book. And so probably, I guess, anywhere from 6 to 12 months before that other book comes out. Maybe even sooner. We'll see.
Cool.
I'm hoping to have beta testers, let's say, by the end of the year.
Cool. Well, you got one if you need it, and you might have 6 more behind that just because of the people that I have on the team. So if you want.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'd love it. And I want to do, I don't want to have just, one beta test group. I want to have a few different groups so we can just kind of like, because every group's going to have a different dynamic. And so I need to learn how that dynamic has changed, and, are the things that we're doing, are they working or are they not?
Yep.
And if they're not, then we have to like tweak them to make sure that they do.
Makes sense. So where can they find you now? Hi there. That's fine. She can come say hi to Daddy.
It's him, but it's whatever.
Him?
Anyways,
that's him. Okay.
Yeah, you can only see a little sliver and stuff. Anyways, where can they find me now? I have a website. Most information is on my main website, ariguns.com, ARIGUNZ.com.
I like that .com. That's pretty cool.
And then that actually forwards to other sites, but it's just the short URL. And then the book is on the URL littlebookofgreatness.com, all spelled out, all one word, no hyphens, littlebookofgreatness.com. And that'll it has a quick page about that with some reviews and then links to Amazon so you can buy it.
Nice. And then they can follow you on social. You're on Instagram.
Oh yeah. I mean, there's my social links are at the bottom of my main website.
Cool.
And certainly you can find me if you just do a quick search and whatnot.
Well, and at the same time, we're going to put all the links down below in the comments, so
Awesome.
all of our watchers and listeners can come find you. Guys, if you have questions for Ari, go ahead and put them in the comments. We'll forward them over to him so he can go ahead and answer them as he has time.
So I try to answer everything personally. So feel free to ask and reach out and talk and everything.
Absolutely. Chances are we'll just tag you and say, hey, Ari, you want to answer this one? You're going to have to come back to our channel. Let's see. If you're watching us now on YouTube, don't forget to subscribe. If you have not, hit the bell. Make sure you know when the next one's coming up. If you're listening to us on any of the podcast platforms that we're a part of, which I think are about 11 or 12 of them now, thank you. Download it, subscribe. If you're listening on anchor.fm, that's our main home. Thank you for listening there. And if you want to make a little donation to support, feel free. Every little bit helps. And we're always happy to support back by bringing cool guys like this guy over here in to share his wisdom and knowledge, their insights. And, you know, we love all of you. We thank you all for listening and for watching. That'll never change. I mean, it's the reason that we started this whole thing in the first place, was to bring you guys the good stuff with the good people. So stay up, stay safe, stay healthy, and live. For Ari Gunzberg and myself, Coffee with Mike. Ciao for now.
Thanks for having me.
For more information on Java Chat, visit www.javachatpodcast.com. You've been listening to Coffee with Mike on Java Chat. Tune in weekly to this podcast for the next episode. You can also download or subscribe today on your favorite podcast platform. A production of Oasis Media Group, LLC. Located in Las Vegas, Nevada. Copyright 2019. All rights reserved.